All right, guys. Um, so your challenge was to create this. I noticed that some of you took a very starting from scratch approach and started from scratch. You didn't need to. So what I would have suggested is working from what you started last week, because if you think about this diagram that I drew on the board analytically, these are breakpoints in panels, right?
Yes.
And so the actual glass piece is easy. You've already built that in last week's definition. The only thing that you would need to do that's different is change up how you're boxing the geometry for this out, right? So you're going to kind of change that orientation a little bit and change the way you're thinking about this. Instead of being one big box, it's now going to be two smaller boxes that are going opposite directions. And then also create the extrusion for the fin. That's it. That's all you'd have to do. So I'm going to show you that solution now.
Oh, the fin's going inward.
Yeah. Yes, it is. Okay, sorry, let me set up.
I didn't see that.
So the second glass panel is just like the normal of the other?
You're talking about the fin? Well, let's start with the fin. So the fin is basically going to be an edge that you've selected from your midpoint, right? So it's going to grow from this. So I'll show you real quick what I would do. I'd go back to these subdivided surfaces, and I would try to grab the edge from those. Okay, so let's go to surface, deconstruct, brep, and I'm going to do everything down here. So let me turn this back off again. And what I'm going to do is use list item.
Are you recording this, Kevin?
Yes, I am. Thank you. I'm using list item to grab a particular edge. So let's do 0 is less than 3 because it's a quadrilateral. And when I zoom out, let's see, we've got the bottom edge, and this is the side edge. Okay, I'm not so concerned about having every single end piece right now. I just wanted you guys to get the right definition. So having this row, and this row is enough for this exercise. So all I have to do there is just start to extrude it, right? So I need to sort of offset it and then extrude it technically. So I'm going to go to transform. Let's do a move on here. And instead of the Z direction, I actually want it to go along the normal. So I can go to surface. Let's go to divide surface, which is going to give me normals of surfaces. But what's cool about the divide surface is that if it asks me for the number of segments, and this is a shortcut, guys, I could just say 1. And then take all of these surfaces, and it's going to give me the normals for all of those. Oh, it actually gave me 2. Why is it giving me 2? Let's see, 1 subdivision. I don't think 0 will work. No. -1, -1. Well, they're all going the same direction, so let's do a split list. So we'll go to split list, that, and split it at 0, so we're only getting one of those. Oh, that wouldn't let me split it. Instead of split list then, let's just grab list item. We can grab all those zeros. There we go. So now we're getting one vector from each group. That's all we need to do. That should be fine for this exercise. So that is the vector we're going to use. We're going to go to amplify to make sure that we're moving it a certain length. So vectors, amplitude, and see how it's already pushing it out to the front side. We want to do, let's do zeros less than, this is set to feet, so 2.00, maybe 2 feet. And I'm going to switch my math to negative because it's already going the wrong direction. Boom. Bump it out like that. So that's one. See how I kind of got it just kind of sticking off a little bit? I can just copy this whole thing and do another one, and that's going to be a little bit further. Something like that. And then loft the two together. So we're going to go from here to there. Whoop. There we go. Something grafted funny, though.
You have a different way of thinking, man.
Thanks. Something looks a little funny. I have some duplicate surfaces somewhere. I would troubleshoot that later, but let's get the gist of it down first. So that's your fin. That's this little segment right here. Let's group that. Call it fin. So the other thing is we need to deal with the hardware, right? So I mentioned that the hardware piece is now going to be sort of like a bar style hardware piece. So let me go down to that and modify it. I'm going to try and simplify this as much as possible and not do too much work. Well, actually, I'm going to get rid of these. Okay, and I'm going to create just like a little pipe in the back. So yours is going to look a little different. You can ignore this part of mine. Turn this 45, 90. Close enough. And let's scale it up a little bit from one of the center pieces. 1.2. Whoa. Let's go from that to here and ever so slightly. Darn. I'm trying to do this sort of on the fly with something that doesn't really need to be done this way, but well, that's unfortunate. All right, forget that. Let's do a disk. Something like that. Extrude, we'll go up a little bit. Pull this down so it goes below. And let's do a Boolean union on this. There we go. Okay, so now I've got something that I can use that's just bar style. It does not look anything like what you made, but it should still represent something similar. So what, let me refresh you on what it is we're doing. So it kind of represents something like that. So back in the model, what we need to do is modify the box locations so that they're separated. So we're going to do it so that each panel has a separate one on each side so that we can do two of these. Which reminds me, this needs to be split in half. So let's go. This is kind of in the wrong orientation. Let's go center point to. It'll stretch. So let's go there to there. Curve. Let's go like this. And split. There we go. So these things are two separate items. Can we cap that? Yeah, we capped it. Cap. All right, now they're solid. That's good. All right, so let's get back to it. Did I do that right? I did that right. Okay. So the boxes, we now need to reorient them because we have them built off of a surface divide, which means they are static and they exist exactly on those panels at the corners. So let's go back up to where that was. This is the new surface 4 point. We have the original subdivide surface, and this is our surface subdivision that we created planes on in order to generate the Boxmorph. That would be this surface box. Okay, we need to modify this. So I'm gonna pause this and this one right here. So I'm gonna like kind of copy this whole section down and do a new one and turn that one off, just so you guys can see the new version. Let's turn these off. All right, so instead of associating them with a surface divide, which is going to create the base point element, I'm actually going to create a separate domain. Okay, so let's kind of reconstruct this a little bit. I'm going to go back up to domain. I'm going to do a construct domain, and let's pull a copy of each of the new surfaces down. But I'm actually going to use the smaller surfaces so that they're oriented to the particular location of those surfaces. So let's pull this over here, plug that in. I'm going to make that wireless. Oops. And then yank that down. We're going to do a construct domain squared on that, and we're going to do an ISO trim. That's what you're going to need every time. Okay, so here's the key. I'm only going to do like one set of these boxes for now so that you can just understand the system. But the key is to make sure that you're orienting the boxes to where you need the hardware. So if I'm going to say 0 less than 1.00 for all of these, copy paste. Let's do that a bunch of times. Oops. There we go. That and that. Something looks funny here. Why is that smaller? Huh. That's weird. It should be filling up the whole surface at this point. That's going that way. That's going that way. None of them are missing. That's very odd. Sorry guys, this is a little unexpected, because these are full surfaces. Let's check a list item. Full Latin. Okay, one full surface. Let's try that. And it still did it. Huh. Oh, I think I know what it is. There we go. So I forgot to reparametrize. Sorry. Okay, so now we're looking at the whole surface. Guys, I want you to pay attention to this. We're looking at the whole surface. So the difference here is that rather than setting these boxes to be on the whole surface, we're actually going to set them on a reduced domain location. So if I need to bring it down from the top and up from the bottom, and then this one goes over from the side, you can find you could find the exact size, but generally with this kind of system, you're not going to find the exact size. You're going to find sort of a substitute or kind of like a trial for how big it needs to be in that location. And then this is going to be our new rectangle, because if you recall from this system, the surface box is built off of a rectangle, which is a surface. Oh, I had it on, didn't I? Well, let's reconnect it into this surface, right? So we have these surfaces are going to override that connection. So now it's actually going to be fed into this instead. And the difference is our geometry just needs to be set to a different geometry. So let me get rid of some of this excess. Oh, wait, hang on. That was, oh, that's rectangle. Okay, we can get rid of that. The surface box is going to need the domain. So the domain is going to be built off of the initial surface. So it should be 0 and 1 on that, which means it should be reparametrized properly. And then we just need to set the geometry. So let's go back down here. The items that you're building here need to be set to the X and Y plane. So let me pull it closer to the X and Y plane so you can take a look at it. Whichever one we're going to be working on, one of them needs to be exactly aligned. So let's rotate. I'm going to rotate this one here and here and set it to that axis. And then I'll rotate this one here and set it to that axis as well. I think that they both need to be like this, aligned to the X and Y. So it's not perfect. I don't think I cut this this edge perfectly, but it should stretch it so that it matches just fine. I just need to find which one it is. So let's start with the right one, set one geometry, and let's go up and take a look. Okay. Looks like my extrusion is on the wrong side. So my surface box needs to not be negative. Let's go into positive direction. And there it is. So that's basically a replacement of one side of this hardware versus the other side. Clear enough? Okay, so you understand conceptually what we did. Let me go back and sort of re-show you what we actually did, right? So if you look at what we've made here, it's not that much. Like the whole solution is right here on screen. So we had to recreate the fins, which looks like a lot, but geometrically it's actually quite simple. And you guys know how to do this. All of you do. And then the hardware is nothing different than what we did before. All we did was take out a chunk of information right around here that we didn't need because all we needed to do was change the type of rectangle we were creating the surface box off of. That's it. Those are the two steps you had to take. Okay? What questions do you have?
I didn't even think about looking up the definition.
Really?
Yeah.
It looks so much like what we did in class last week, though.
It does.
So, guys, generally speaking, if an assembly looks like something you did before, odds are you've done most of it before. Because in case you haven't noticed by now, all the tools we use, like subdivide, deconstruct brep, right? Construct domain squared. I'm sure you've noticed that we just keep reusing them, but in different ways, right? That's it. That's all there is to it. What other questions do you have? Dude, you look white. Okay, so let me sort of reset a little bit, and then
So did we
we'll get
model
going.
those Molian systems on Rhino, and then we're gonna bring it to Grasshopper?
That's not advisable. Because what if you change the number of subdivisions? Like now, with this particular definition, like all these things are here and they're all set. But if I go back to like the beginning of my definition and I want to say, oh, and my professor says, oh no, your concept's going to be much stronger if instead of 6 panels in the vertical direction, you only have 3. Right? Then you can go back and say, okay, 3, done. You might have to go in and like change the stretchiness of this a little bit and just say, oh yeah, that stretched it out a little bit. Let me go down here and say, I'll put that up here and I'll put this there. Right? That's it. Now you're done. Now you don't have to remodel literally everything you've already made. Okay. Any other questions?
Kevin, could I see the original picture that you had of the glass?
Yeah. This. So I only showed you guys one. You would need to do it 4 times, right? The hardware piece. You'd have to do it once for the top, once for the bottom, and then you'd need to grab the other one that was facing it, the opposite, and then you'd have to do it at the top and the bottom on the other side as well.
The way it looked like both of those panels were next to each other to me, not at 90-degree angle.
Oh, I see what you mean, yeah. So actually, guys, alternatively, you could have, in theory, reused exactly the same definition that we made, and instead of, well, you'd have to finagle it a little bit because this geometry has to be connected to each other. So you could have put in like a little, very very thin pipe that connects from like this piece to that piece, and you could have considered that one object, booleaned it together, and then just kind of enlarged the size of the original piece as well. It's not always acceptable, but like think of it this way: when you're getting into like your architectural models and your renderings and stuff, you're going to be looking at this thing from like this far away, right? Nobody's going to see a 1/32 inch radius wire that goes from one piece to the other, right? So take shortcuts.
So this is just for like rendering and stuff like that.
No. I mean, like you're never really going to see it. You might see that in some of your line drawings as well, but it's going to be so minuscule that it probably won't even bother your drawings either. Or if it does, then you just go in and take a few of them out. Yeah, but it's especially useful for renderings because you'll never see it in a render. What other questions? Okay.